the Wednesday show. All right, that's how you start a show, man. Let's get some excitement, some energy. Now we're going. Here's the deal, guys. Today I want to talk about something. It's going to sound like a pitch, man, if you saw the thumbnail, but I do want to bring in the other side, too. I want to be realistic about this. Should I use a realtor to sell my house? Now, you got two sharks here. We're both realtors, so we're like, dun-na. Of course you should be using a realtor, man. Dun-na. But that's not necessarily the case. There are some things you should consider. I think you're crazy if you go that way, but there are some situations where if you're in this boat and this is what you believe and this is what you want to take a risk on and maybe get the reward on, then maybe you want to do it. So we're going to talk about all those things, and I'm going to let you start, Lissette. Give me a point, something I should consider as a seller that would make me want to use a realtor or not use a realtor.
I think one of the biggest issues that a seller should take into account when using an agent or deciding not to use an agent is to ask a realtor about pricing. Sometimes, sellers have an emotional attachment to their properties. So they think their property is going to stand out from all the other properties in the market, and I'm going to price it $15,000, $20,000 over all the other comparable properties on the market because my property is extra special. When you bring an agent in, they understand the market, they understand the other properties and what they're selling for and why they're selling for. So they could give you an objective, unbiased opinion of what your sell price should be.
I agree. And I know we said this, I don't know if it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, you got 20 listing appointments. How many of those sellers tell you, I got it. I know you're telling me it's $350, but my house is really special because, and then they followed up with something that is special. It is unique, but it carries this much value to the majority of buyers in the market. How often do you see that out of 20?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
20, maybe 19, right? Yeah. But everybody's, and listen, it does make sense, but you got to look at the buyer pool, man. They are not looking at your house with blinders on. They're looking at all the houses that they've got available to them, and they can pick any one they want, right? Comps are comps are comps are comps are comps. If your home was worth more, comps would have proven it, and you would have seen it, right? So it's really challenging to hear, especially when you're one-on-one with somebody, but that you're so right. So let me ask you this then. Let me beat up on that a little bit. Why not ask a realtor to come in, give me a price, and then say, thanks, and go list it myself?
Well, first of all, you're not going to have any representation. Second of all, if you want your property to sell in today's market, you definitely want to be able to have that property accessible to all the buyers in the market. And who has a whole database of buyers? Realtors do. So that, and also think about the network they have behind them. Yeah. We have appraisals, we have title companies, we have insurance companies, lenders. We have a whole group of people that we have that support us, which will in turn support you, the seller.
Yep. Great points. And I would say this too, right? If you're thinking, I sell it myself, I'm going to save a commission. You're going to save part of a commission. At what loss we can talk about in a little bit. But if you've got a property for sale and you pay me, we can talk about any commission you want, right? I'm going to make one up, 6%. You pay me 6%. I don't get 6%. All right. That's an important indication that I proponent of this that I think people need to know. You're not paying me 6%. You're paying me roughly half of it and the buyer's agent roughly half of it. And that roughly half that we're giving to the buyer's agent, that's a carrot. That's a motivator to say, come on over. We got more to give you in payment, Mr. Agent, Mrs. Agent, than anybody else. Come on over. Come show ours. Bring us multiple offers. Bring us big old good offers because we're going to pay you handsomely. That's what you're paying to the buyer's agent. If you're not paying that whole commission, that means you have a slew of buyer's agents. Oh, by the way, 95+% of homes that sell are sold with someone who's got an agent. So that means you just got rid of 95% of your buyer pool. I don't want to sell anything and get rid of 95% of the buyer pool just to save a few percentage points. Because remember, you might save the roughly half with me, but you've still got to pay out that other half to the buyer's agent. So you're still paying out roughly 3%. So don't think I'm saving, in this example, 6%. You're saving roughly 3%. And I'll give you an example too. I had some buyers. We were at 375. And at 375, I had them contracted, right? They wanted to work with me. So we had them contracted at 3%. And I said, listen, almost all these are going to pay 3%. If they don't pay 3%, Then we'll talk about how we can negotiate that and work it in. Okay, sounds good. So as soon as they saw that, they said, I love it. I'd pay full price. I said, listen, let's go full price minus 3%. And then you guys can afford to pay the commission. So I worked in. They're like, that's brilliant. So we put it in, got it accepted. But the owner probably didn't even see it. He paid that half of the commission, right? You're still paying it. So you're going to pay that commission 95% of the time anyway, but 100% of the time, you're getting rid of all of those people in the market that you'd otherwise be getting. What do you think of that, Lissette?
Oh, definitely. And also think about the time that you're spending with that property on the market. That's costing the seller money. Every single month, you're paying mortgage and taxes on that property when it could have been sold. I had an experience with a seller who did not want to work with an agent, and the property was on the market for months. And just because he didn't have all the access available that we do and all availability to buyers. And how many phone calls did he get to show the property? And when those buyers agents found out that he was not going to pay a commission, they just moved on to the next.
Yep. I'd say this too. Listen, a lot of agents aren't going to want to work with you if you say, hey, I'm going to for sale by owner it myself. But can you come over and just give me a price? A lot of agents are going to say, no, if you want to list it, give me a call. I'm telling you, I will help you. Call me and I'll give you a price. I have no problem with that. But do not use Zillow. I can't tell you how many listing presentations I go into. And people are like, well, I looked on Zillow. They said it was worth $400. I'm like, awesome. That's not even a person, man. It's a robot taking like this much into consideration. They're 10 to 20% off. So I don't know what to tell you, man. Quit using robots. Use people. You'll also see people saying, I'm going to save on the commission. And I don't really want to ask a realtor because then I feel bad, and I'm not going to use them, which guys, you can use me. I don't care. I'm not going to ask you to list it. It's fine. But I do not want to see you fail. But if you're not going to use me and you're not going to use Zillow, please don't use Zillow. Now you're getting an appraiser, right? An appraisal is going to cost you $400, $500, $600. By the way, an appraiser doesn't give you pricing strategies. They give you what other comps show your home to be worth. They don't take into consideration, is the market going up? Is the market going down? What is this little pocket right here doing? What price points should we be at? What are buyers looking at when they do their searches? And what major price points do you want to take into consideration when you're doing it? I'll give you an example. 10, 20 years ago, it makes sense to list your house at $399,900. There's a mental thing going on up here that makes you want to buy it a little bit more at $399,900 versus if it's at $400,000. Now you're crazy to be at $399,900. You're literally losing all those people searching from 4 to 4.25 or 4 to 450. You're losing them all because you're $100 too low. So you really got to reverse engineer exactly what it is a buyer's thinking, and an appraiser's not going to help you with that, right? That's not their job. Their job is to tell you your property is worth X, and here's all the proof to support it, which is exactly what a realtor is going to do without an appraisal's license. They're just taking into consideration the conditions of the market right now, right? Lissette, give me a little feedback on that. What is your experience been with people who have looked at Zillow numbers to price their homes?
Zillow's not going to give you an accurate number. They could be over, they could be under. And my biggest buyer beware is a situation I had a couple months ago. I had a seller who did want to sell on his own, and he actually got an offer from Zillow. And I told him that offer is ridiculous. I can get you $20,000 more. Yeah. Worked with him. He trusted me. We put the property on the market, multiple offers, and we did get him $20,000 more. So if he would have gone the Zillow route, maybe he would have go to showings, sold the property as is, didn't need to do any additional paint or touching up, but he would have lost $20,000. Yep. So be very careful with that information you're getting off these websites. Yeah.
How do they say it? Saving a dime to make a buck, saving a whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you're saving this much, but you're losing this much, right? So here's another thing. You don't have representation. And I can't tell you how many situations a buyer or a seller will say, well, let's just do this. And I'll say, you don't want to do that, because if you do that, they're going to do this. Any agent's going to do that. And then that's going to come back at you like this, right? So let's do this, which gives you 3 different options. And then you've got all kinds of things. I didn't know you could do that. Little things like that happen on every single transaction. A lot of times, many times during a transaction, are going to be worth it, right? You're going to put yourself in such a tough situation. Sometimes, not always, if you don't have representation. It's a big deal. It is a challenging industry to know all the ins and outs, the legalities, the negotiation tactics, all those different things. And I want to add this too. You're not saving all of your money by cutting a realtor out, right? A realtor is part of the cost. you've still got a lot of different closing costs. So definitely call your title company if that's the route you're going to, and ask them, what am I going to be paying in closing costs in addition to the realtor, right? That way, if you don't have a realtor, you've got all these different costs and you are aware of what those costs are before you go in. Paying title is something you can negotiate. You might not even know that, and that could cost you thousands of dollars just with a simple check of a box. It doesn't have a dollar amount on it on that page on the purchase agreement. It doesn't tell you how much it's going to cost you. And if you don't know that that's something that can be negotiated, you might just sign off on it. Boom, depending upon the price of your home, you just gave up $2,000-$3,000 like that because you didn't have representation. So paperwork is a big deal. And let me ask you, Lissette, when you're doing a transaction, right, the sucker goes pending. Between pending and closing, if you don't have a transaction coordinator, how many phone calls, how many emails, how many texts, how many times do you have to coordinate to get appraisers, inspectors, the buyers into the house? And then they got a phone call with a question, and then you got to get somebody, a handyman to come over, or an AC guy or a heater guy to come over and give you an estimate on something. And then you got to drop the paperwork, and then you get, how many times, I'm not going to ask how many times. I'm going to say just guess. This is a complete guess. How many hours do you spend between pending and closing on all that communication and paperwork?
Depending on the transaction, sometimes hundreds. And even before you even list the property, there's things I even go out and touch up a few things on the property just to make sure it's in the best shape possible to have that property listed. And then once we go pending, there's so many different parts of the transaction that we need to stay on top of. We have to stay on top of the lender, make sure the title is processing in the time that we have allowed to process the inspection. If there's an issue with the appraisal, who's going to fight that appraisal for you? Your realtor. So you have someone that's fighting for you and has your back throughout the entire transaction. And to me, that's priceless.
So I looked it up on a website. I don't know how good this website is or how accurate this statistic is, but you tell me. I think it's pretty doggone accurate. They said that there were 78 different communications, whether it was a call, a text, an email, a visit, whatever, between pending and closing. Does 78 sound pretty accurate?
Oh, most definitely. And especially the way I believe that you work, Joe, and I work, our clients become our friends, our family. So we're in constant communication. I know you're available almost 24/7 to your clients, as I try to be too. So that's worth a lot.
Yeah. One last thing I'm going to go over are easy things to miss. Guys, if you're not going with a realtor, right? It's just like, would you go into surgery without a doctor? You would save a load of money, man. Those suckers are expensive. But if you could save that money, ooh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? The question is the risk worth the reward? All right. Same thing. You're going to go to a custody battle over your kids, the things you probably love the most in life. At least I do. Well, number one, I hope I never get into that situation. But number two, if I do, there's no way I'm going to be, I'm just going to represent myself. We'll see what happens. If I got the money, I'm paying the money to get that done because I want to make sure I'm positioning myself best. All right. So it's not that you can't. You can do a surgery yourself. That's crazy. You can represent yourself in court, but holy smokes, the risks are enormous. You know exactly what you're going to pay up front. Is it worth the risks? There is a reward, and man, that's a good looking reward. But remember, it's only half of what you think you're saving. And you're taking on a load of paperwork and a load of effort. Just make sure you think of that too. And here are 5 things that I wrote down that I want you to keep in mind if you're going to go for sale by owner, because these are things that could help you, right? An escalation clause. A lot of agents don't know what an escalation clause is, let alone sellers, right? In this market especially, it is critical that you know what that is. Look it up if you don't, and you're going to fizzbo. Who's paying title? I talked about that earlier. Again, depending upon the price of your home, that could be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 or more that you're just giving up because you don't know that that's what that little box check means, right? Justifying sales price to an appraisal. Lissette touched on a little bit. If you got problems with the appraiser, you can communicate with them. Did you know that? Do you know how to communicate with them? How are you going to pull comps off of Zillow or the MLS, right? Do you know how to pull comps and how to communicate that to an appraiser so you don't lose your deal or have to drop your price to whatever that appraised amount is? That's a big deal. Paying that buyer's commission to an agent, right? Again, that carrot that you're dangling. You don't want to pay a huge carrot. I mean, even I don't want you paying a ton in commission. You want to pay a reasonable commission that's going to get the activity you want in. You don't want to pay too much. You don't want to pay too small of an amount, right? So I like to do an analysis on the market you're in at that time to see exactly what that carrot's got to look like to get buyers through the door. And then the last thing, guys, even if you're not using a guy like me or someone like Lissette, professional photography is a must. Mm-hmm. I see it on $500,000, $1 million properties where agents will walk in and they'll walk in with this sucker right here, their iPhone.
Yes.
Photos with no lights on, right? They're not opening the windows, right? They're leaving the curtains over the windows. It's not staged. And this is on $500,000 to $1 million properties with a realtor. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do it and you want to get that extra 5-10% out of that house, and you will get it with professional photography, someone like me or Lissette, we're going to pay for that. And we're going to make sure you've got the best photographer there is. If you're going for sale by owner, please contact one of us and say, Joe, I don't want to use you, man, but I do want your photographer. And I'll say gladly, here is his name and number. I cannot recommend him enough. Set yourself up for success. Lissette, I'm going to let you end. What's the words of wisdom, the big thing I need to be thinking about?
You know, again, like I said before, it is worth so much to have someone to have your back throughout the whole transaction. This is the biggest transaction possibly of your life, whether you're purchasing or selling. And to go it alone, unless you are an experienced agent, is scary and also risky. So it's definitely worth that commission to make sure it's done right and you save yourself the hassle or any issues down the road in the future.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, you can catch Lissette and myself every single Wednesday at 10:30 live, where we just talk about whatever's on the top of our mind, man. And usually it's stuff that we're encountering, so it's market hot stuff. So thanks, Lissette. I appreciate it. Have a rocking day, my friend.
Have a great day, Joe. Bye, everybody.
All right, take care.